Welcome to the BEASTwriter Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to be making sense of the San Francisco 49ers moving all in for quarterback Deshaun Watson. So let's get started. Now, for those who don't know, Peter King of NBC Sports put out a potential trade in which the 49ers give up the farm in getting and landing the top 5 franchise quarterback. So let's go ahead and talk about that. But before we do, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you who subscribe to my channel. Be sure to flip on the bell notifications so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content. Also, I'm noticing based on my analytics that 67% of you are watching all my stuff and liking all my stuff but have yet to subscribe to my channel. So please do me a solid, guys, and hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. All right, so let's go ahead and delve right into it. This is a potential trade, again, in which Peter King of NBC Sports put out in regards to getting Deshaun Watson. Let me just pull up the article and we'll be off and running. He said San Francisco would be okay with entering 2021 with Jimmy Garoppolo as its starter, but no matter what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch say, they can't be totally comfortable with it. Garoppolo has missed 23 of the last 48 regular season games with injuries. Tom Brady has missed only 15 games due to injury in 20 seasons. And I'll always wonder if the 49ers have the tiniest bit of buyer's remorse for not pulling the trigger on a deal with Brady last March. Me too. We'll know when Brady or Lynch or Shanahan write a book in 15 years how close that came. But if the Niners could convince Garoppolo to waive his no-trade clause, I could see San Francisco being all in here. Even though the Niners clearly would have to part with some major assets, perhaps including the younger nerve center of their defense, linebacker Fred Warner is such a rising star. However, that his re-signing in San Francisco in the next 12 months might affect the franchise's ability to keep other great young players like Nick Bosa in-house. He then went on to say, in his proposal, this is a 7-for-1 Garoppolo linebacker Fred Warner, that really hurts, tackle Mike McGlinchey, first-round picks in 2021, which is 12th overall, and 2022, plus a second-round pick in 2021 and a third-round pick in 2022 for Watson. It's a lot for the Niners to pay all of the players in all the deals I'm proposing. Warner would be the most coveted one in my book. But he's here because he is entering the final year of his rookie contract and will want a new deal. McGlinchey is in the exact same position too. Houston could view them as cornerstones for the rebuild. All right, so that's what Peter King said in his article. Let me just break that down brick by brick as to what he's talking about as we discuss the move all in for Deshaun Watson. All right, so the 49ers obviously get Deshaun Watson, and they give up a 7-for-1 deal in which Jimmy Garoppolo heads the list. Then you have Fred Warner, right tackle Mike McGlinchey, a 2021 first-round pick, number 12 overall, a 2021 second-round pick, which is 43 overall, a 2022 first-round pick, and a 2022 third-round pick. So again, 7 assets, right? Now, would I make this move? Absolutely not. If you check my YouTube and Twitter receipts, you will know that anytime that anytime a trade involves Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, or George Kittle, I'm hanging up the phone because you're giving up your core foundational players and you're mortgaging the future by getting one player in return. Now, you have to look at it from a GM perspective and say, does it make financial sense, along with how he would fit in the cap, right? So let's go ahead and look at it. Again, you guys know how I feel about trading Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, or George Kittle. I'm not doing it. If I'm John Lynch, I'm hanging up the phone right away and saying, the fool's gold is on you. This is not April Fool's, bro. All right? So from the Texans' point of view perspective in this trade, obviously GM Nick Caserio would make this deal simply because he needs draft capital in return. And I put out a funny tweet earlier in the year saying, if I'm Nick Caserio, I want all my draft picks back. I'm laughing because it's funny. I want all my draft picks back in David F. Putney. Well, if you guys get the reference, it's in reference to Draft Day with Kevin Costner, where he was the Cleveland Browns GM and he gave up so much draft capital to the Seattle Seahawks and basically got fleeced. And then in return, at the very end, pulls a deal in which he struck multiple trades and he forced the Seahawks' hand in not only getting his draft picks back, but then allowing the Seahawks to go ahead and get their Bo Callahan quarterback. It's a good movie. Anyways. All right. So getting back to the Texans, yeah, it's a good move for them if this trade was to fall through or not fall through, but take place, because at the end of the day, you're getting draft capital in return, and that's what Nick Caserio wants. But more importantly, you're leveraging this deal with an all-pro player. Again, I said time and time again, first-round draft picks or draft picks in general are no guarantee. What you want to do to leverage this deal, if you're going to give up a top 5 franchise quarterback, is get something guaranteed in return. Middle linebacker Fred Warner is guaranteed. You're going to get a guaranteed player who is the best at his position, and an all-pro talent. Same with edge rusher Nick Bosa. When healthy, he's a top 5 edge rusher all day long. So again, Nick Caserio would be making this play. I said this in my earlier podcast in which I actually broke down this trade scenario, not the one that Peter King broke down like verbatim, but it was very similar why I included Nick Bosa and why Fred Warner might be included in this deal. So again, I included this in the description of this podcast. So again, please, if you're new to subscribing to my channel, for me, credibility is based on what I say in real time. And now Peter King is saying this months later or weeks later. Be sure to go ahead and look at my timeline of what I had to say in regards to Fred Warner in real time. There's a reason why his dad follows me on YouTube, on Twitter, likes all my podcasts, especially the latest one in regards to his son, where I said Fred Warner must be re-signed before it's too late. Check that out. Again, I'll include that podcast playlist in the description below. So go ahead and click on that and you will find a whole timeline in real time of what I had to say in regards to Fred Warner up to this point. Now, getting back to the deal. Would I make this deal? Like I just said, no. But it does make financial sense. The only thing that doesn't make sense in this deal with Peter King, and I would argue, is why would you include right tackle Mike McGlinchey? Because at the end of the day, you already have 2019 first round pick in Tytus Howard. And by moving on from Tytus Howard, you'd be hitting or receiving a cap hit of $3.9 million. And with the Texans head above water, barely head above water, with roughly $6 million in cap health, you'd be doing yourself a disservice, because now you're taking a cap hit for a 2019 first round pick and then doubling down on that by getting right tackle Mike McGlinchey, who is another 2018 first round pick, but could be considered a bust at this point. So what's the leverage there in making that deal? Like, there's going to be a logjam at right tackle. So what are you going to do with one of those two players? You can't pay them both. So you might as well just keep Tytus Howard anyways. Financially, it makes logical sense. Does it make sense to bring on another contract and then have a logjam there, and then having a logjam there, then having to move on Tytus Howard when you know you're going to have to absorb a cap hit regardless of either trade or release him? So you might as well just keep him. So I'm not sure Peter King actually did the financials on that, but that's what I'm here for. I'm not criticizing Peter King. I'm just saying it doesn't realistically make sense to include right tackle Mike McGlinchey, because at the end of the day, you already have Tytus Howard, and Laremy Tunsil is already commanding big left tackle money. So, all right. So with that being said, yeah, I wouldn't do it. People were asking me, would I make this trade? Is it realistic? And for the most part, it is realistic. Like I said, I included my podcast playlist on the Deshaun Watson trade and making sense of that trade if he were to come to the San Francisco 49ers. To be honest with you, that's my hardest hitting podcast that I've done to date. So check that out. And again, I'll include a podcast playlist of my Fred Warner my Fred Warner timeline, so you can see what's going on in real time. All right. So that'll be it for today. I hope you liked what I had to say. If you did, please hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. Also, welcome to the BEASTwriter family. I call this a family where social media engagement is encouraged. So be sure to drop your comments on whether or not you would make the move, because I want to hear your voice. Just because I have a platform doesn't make my voice greater than yours. We all have a voice. Ultimately, our voices don't matter anyways, because we're not the GMs and ultimately not the ones making that freaking decision. So in the end, who cares? This is a strong, healthy debate where we can just discuss football. And who doesn't like discussing football? I like hearing other people's perspectives on things. And as you know, if you look at my comment section, I respond to every single comment. So again, this is a BEASTwriter family, a BEASTwriter community where we're trying to build up social media engagement, where no opinion is wrong or right. We all have opinions and differing opinions. So yeah, it's all fun and games, right? So, all right. Well, that'll be it for today. Again, like I said, thank you for tuning in. I'll be back possibly later today. I try to do at least 1 or 2 podcasts a day, at least one a day. So check back daily. I also include a podcast playlist for you guys. So be sure to go ahead and check that out at the end of every podcast. You'll see a podcast playlist in the screen, or the end of the screen, I should say. And then you also see a podcast playlist in the description. So again, there's a lot of different things to catch up on. I strongly encourage you, since you subscribe to my channel, to catch up on everything. And again, look at the timestamp of when I said things, and then look at how everything played out in hindsight. And then you can determine whether or not I know my stuff. You be the judge. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and hit the gym. It's about that time. My pre-workout is about to hit. It's about to be 1 o'clock now. So BEASTwriter out.